Hello, welcome to another Inktober. Today I'm going to be doing yesterday's prompt, which is day 11 and pattern. Or is it day 10 and pattern? Oh no, day 10 pattern. I think. Anyway, it's pattern. Okay, so I'm going to be sketching this out. I haven't sketched it out yet. I haven't stretched the watercolour paper yet. So this is the process that happens before you see me do the actual inking. Just move that a moment. Okay. Hi, Mareka. Hi, Jade. I'm just going to do my usual check. So video check. I haven't got a second video on. Because I wanted you to see the process in full. But I do need to check the sound, so I'll just check that in a minute. We do that through there. I'm just clicking on the video online. You won't hear an echo, I've got my headphones on. Right, great, that's all done. Well, alrighty, great stuff. So, yeah, a pattern. So, with my theme of animals being impacted by humans, I thought tigers would be a good fit for this one. Tigers or leopards, but I might draw a leopard later. I don't know yet. Okay. So I've just got a few tools here. I just have some pencils, but actually I only need really a HB pencil and a razor and a bit of blue tack. Alrighty, I'm at quite an awkward angle here actually, so hopefully I can do this alright. Okay, well I'll give a bit of a tutorial on this. Not a full one, just roughly saying about my process. If I do a full tutorial on it, this sketch out is going to take ages because sketching does take quite a bit of time. So the first thing I want to do is position this on my paper. And how I do that is I look at some basic shapes. And it differs for every single one, but the basic shape that I can see here goes like that. So I'm going to look at this, and by the way, I'm not doing this end of the body, otherwise, well, I might actually, yeah, I might, I'm just thinking, because I'm going to have a split, and if I split it, yeah, okay, so the first thing I want to do is mirror this. I got to decide which side I want in colour, yeah. Now, I tell you what, that's fine. I can split this down here. So if I'm going to put the whole thing on, I want this bit as far over here as possible. So I'm just going to sketch out literally some straight angles here. That's what I do with my pencil. I just, yeah, it's pretty much straight down. So I want my split about here, so I want that roughly in the middle of the page, roughly. So if I do that line round about there, I want the feet to end there. Doesn't always work out to fit on your paper like that, because that might be actually too wide, which it is. So I'm just going to bring, I think it is anyway. You have to guess at this point. So that's roughly that shape. And then we've got, so I'm going to look at where that is, halfway point and a little bit down from it. And do that. And that. And that basically goes straight like that. Now that looks nothing like a tiger, you might think. Well, as I go, by the way, I'm just going to erase the lines that I don't need. Otherwise, it starts to get. Let's just push that out of the way. It starts to get a bit complicated. So, all right. So I have my basic shape. Now, from there, at the top here, we've got a circle. Now it's slightly below the ears, and that protrudes slightly past my shape. I hope that makes sense. So we now have a circle. Now we have a little circle. I'm looking at where this starts and where that ends. Here. So a little circle for his muzzle. Okay, so from there, we've got our basic shapes. I'm just going to add in just a few more angles. Like, that's his leg. And okay, just before there we come in. And there. And I can see that that there then is a little bit too low. So when you're sketching, it's all about shapes. Draw what you see and relationships. So much detail. Detail in instruction or detail in the photo. Marika, that is always how I forget to start. Just start with basic. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now I'm going to look at, you know, some, well, again, I'm still doing basic shapes at the moment, but I'm doing, you know, some of the details, and you're going to have to excuse me for a little while because I can't explain everything I'm doing because it's going to take a long time to do that, and now's not the time. But basically, I'm still doing shapes. And angles. It looks like a seal. Right, so, over here, yep, we've got that, we've got that, and okay, yeah, that's a good place to start. There, I didn't want it quite so far up. So something's got to give here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the angle of his ears just slightly. This is where you get to be a proper artist and don't just copy. Yeah, if his ears were slightly down more, this is what you would see. And the same with this ear. So now we're looking like a bear. Yeah, the muzzle looks like a sea lion now. Yeah. Yeah, it will. It's, you know, it's just, this is just one way of sketching out. I find it the quickest, so, which is why I'm doing it. You know, I wrote sea lion and Dina picks it up and say, seal. If you're wondering why I stopped talking, I'm drinking my homemade smoothie, which I have every single day. And it lasts me pretty much most of the day as well. I can't drink it all at once. Well, I can, but it makes me feel very full. So, yeah. Just wondering, I've got the wrong glasses on. I tell you what, it does help to have the right glasses on. Sometimes when you've got a patterned animal, such as this one, the patterns can also help you locate, you know, different areas that you need to draw out. So what I'm doing just there is just making sure that I've got the eyes roughly in the right place. And I think that might be, so I'll have a look. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So I'd move these, haven't I? So let's have a little look. This, I think, needs to come over. That needs to come over. This is really about, you know, rubbing out, putting your marks in, doing more rubbing out, putting more marks in. I change mine all the time. You shouldn't. What do you change, Jade? Oops. The reference image. Alright, so what you can see me doing is just some guidelines. I'm just, so here what I'm doing is seeing the end of this nose, how far out it comes from the eye. So the end of this nose comes out about a width away from the eye, and we have to keep going back and checking because we don't know whether the eye's in the right place. So, you know, it's a matter of piecing it together slowly and bit by bit. This bit here, if I carried the angle up, how long past the ear here, and actually it's about here, but again we don't know whether the ear is in exactly the right place, so we've just got to take some guesses here. And you'll soon know because everything just stops working together. But when it does work together, you know you've got it pretty much in the right place. But you've got to start somewhere. That really goes in line with the eye. There we go. That starts there. So hopefully we can start to see a tiger emerging here. Just going to remove some of those lines, otherwise they get a little bit confusing. So now I can see where I've put this this line here. I've either drawn the head too big, which means I won't get the bottom of the tiger in, which is more than likely the case, or I've done this too high up, which also, yeah, go halfway. Yeah, we have actually. That's fine. Yeah. We really need to start this about here. That's okay. We can work that. That's good. This is in line with the end of the nose here. So what I'm going to do is just eliminate that line there a moment. Good, Jay. Get your drawing stuff out. I've got 62 now, have I? Oh, that's good. Oh well. There's lots of strange things going on with notifications, to be honest. A lot of people just don't see it. And it is a work day, so a lot of people are, you know, going to be at work. I'd rather get his head in rather than his body anyway, so that works out okay. But let's make him a bit shorter than he is, and then we can fit it all in. So as I said before, sometimes the markings can really, really help you. So I'm just going to draw a few of those in. Yeah, that's spot on. That's good. Doesn't always work that way. Right, so we've got that there, that there, that there. That there. There and there. So again, I'm just building up relationships between some of the markings and some of the marks that I've already made. Yeah, I don't know, it's just part of it, I guess. The thing with YouTube and these things are, the more popular you are, the more comments that are made. So I'm really pleased that you're all making comments. The more popular they believe you to be, so therefore they will get you in the search rankings a bit more, so you'll be more visible. It hurts my back, this, because I'm stooped over. When you draw, you need your eyes to be as flat to the image as possible in order not to get it out of proportion, which is very difficult when you've got a camera over the image at the same time. So this tells me, it's interesting, this one I'm drawing now tells me that this isn't far enough across. And that's what I mean by relationships, you know, and you've got to keep changing. Now we could do really detailed feet, and a lot of the ones I've already drawn, I've really stayed away from making the feet detailed, and that's because it kind of, you get lost in the detail, and that's not really what this Inktober's about, not for me anyway. So some parts I want detailed, and it's mainly the main part of whatever you're doing, and the feet can be a little bit of a distraction. So something's off. I think it's these stripes in terms of their angle. Yeah. So the reason why I know that is because they are too close to the leg here. So when I came to do this one, where I really want to go up here, this one here that I'd drawn was, yeah, is completely in the wrong place. So I have a tendency to twist one way when I'm drawing. Oh, let's see if I can hop along a chair a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to prop my board up a little. Just change. Excuse me. I had a call even though I've put it on Do Not Disturb. Oh, it's annoying. Right, that means I can look at it from a better angle. Excuse me. And actually sit down. Part of the markings and the pattern can also inform the eye of perspective when your brain is trying to work out what angle something is at and how far away it is from you. So now I can come in with these. About there. I've got a corresponding one just here. Okay. So while you see all of the Inktober's with regards to starting drawing them and drawing them in with ink. This is what you don't see so much, which takes almost as long as the Inktobering. Oh, never mind. I'll see you later on when I get to paint this. Or ink it. I never know the correct term to use. I just need to get my angle right. So this prompt obviously is all about the pattern. So this, I think, is too far up. I'll just adjust that. It's too far over. This, folks, is why it's quicker and easier to trace. It isn't, however, very good for building your skills. Tracing, that is. But it's certainly not cheating. I hear a lot of people say it's cheating. That's not true. As long as you don't do it in place of learning skills, so that you never learn those skills. So I'm just going to get a better idea of the shape of his eye, which is why I've zoomed in there. So we've got a real sleek eye here. So I can still use this technique even though you zoom in. So this technique works regardless of how small, big your reference photo is. Because like I said, it's all about the relationship that it has with other parts of the picture. And the angles remain the same regardless of how small or big the picture is. So if you can work with angles, you can work with any size to any size without having to have this exactly the same size as your reference. So I'll give you an example. Alright, so I'm looking at this, where this orange part starts, and we've got a clear angle here. So if I follow that angle down, like so, I want to see what it corresponds with, what it relates to. Well, it relates to, this angle, if you see it, is actually like it carries straight on, and there's just a gap like that in there. But if we carry that angle straight on, I'm going to do the other side here, it's better with a transparent ruler actually, I can see that it actually lines up with the very edge of his muzzle, or the dark patch here, which I've drawn in here. And mine ends kind of there, that point. So if I'll do one or two things. I can follow that angle up and through, and that is about right. So if I just draw that line straight up, I can then do missing section there. I can come up here and kind of look at the distance between that and that. Okay, so that and that, that and that. And if I go across, so if I see where that ends here, and I go across, I can see that it ends about there on his nose here. So I use that then here to go across, to put a mark, to know where roughly that ends like that. Now we've got that black bit there, so one just leads into the next bit that you need to draw. And if we've got, yeah, that's too big. If we've got that little white bit next to the black bit, next to his nose, like that, and we know that comes down, up, and around. So then we've got an angle that goes out here and is in line with the edge of his eye, like that. And then we have an in, which almost comes to here, and then it goes up. And then we can just freehand this bit here. I hope that made sense. It is incredibly difficult to describe how one sketches. This line here, we need to know how high up. And if I look at my ruler and come across, or from either side actually, okay, it's just above this tuft of the ear here. So I can just roughly bring that up. And around, see where that ends. It's about an eye's width away here, roughly, and at that angle. So when you start out, it's going to take you a very long time to do this process, but after a while you'll just do it in your head and you'll do it naturally, but it does take practice. So again, you know, I can look at this heart-shaped mark here and the outer edge. Where is the outer edge? And I'm looking at the center line where this is, and I can see that it's about here. So if I travel up from there, here, like that, I know that that's roughly where that ends. So I know that I've done the eye probably a little bit too far that way, but at this point, you know, it's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is override that and just pop that marking in. Sometimes you have to decide whether it's worth playing around with, and when it comes to markings, you know, you're just not going to notice any difference at all by putting those in a slightly different place. You don't have to get it exact. In other words, if you really wanted to get this perfectly in proportion by using freehand, you probably would do well by learning the anatomy of a tiger, so that you can accurately say the distance between the nose, the distance the eyes, and distance between the nose, etc., etc., and how far apart the ears are, depending on the breed. But we're not doing that. We're just drawing a tiger freehand, and it doesn't matter if it is slightly out. You will notice I have a tendency to put my work up like that. I've always done that. I have no idea why. This tiger's looking rather angry at the moment. Now we can look at some line drawings, and they don't quite match up to what the tiger actually looks like, and that can happen. But you do need to get your expression relatively right before you start inking or watercolouring, because it's too late to change it at that point. But I don't mind having an angry looking tiger. By the time we get the black and white stripes in, that might actually resolve itself anyway. So a lot of these smaller markings I'm going to put it in as I go along. You know, these tiny ones here, I'm not really going to be bothering to do it at this point, because half the time I lose the markings anyway of the pencil as I start to put the layers down. Just putting in a few helpful marks here. We've got that, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit. I'm going to move it a little bit over. I think this makes a bit more sense and makes room for a few of those markings. What I do want to do is put in that middle marking that comes down here. So we've got that, we've got a little marking here. That one there. I've got that, and these I'm, you know, not worried again where the markings are. I'm just roughly popping them in. What I will do is put where that highlight is. So on Patreon I will do at some point a proper series of how to sketch freehand, where one leads into the next lesson and leads into the next lesson, because it really is one of those things where you do need to progress through a series of stages in order to get better at it. It is, you know, it's literally there are lots of formulas to drawing freehand. good to learn as many as you can. This is not the only way to draw freehand, and actually I never used to draw this way. I just used to pop an eye in the middle of the page and then I used to start drawing around it. And I never used to do a preliminary sketch at all. And what I would find by doing that, I would get into trouble at certain points. And I would feel a bit frustrated because something didn't join up or it didn't look right. Clubby feet, aren't they gorgeous? I love cats' feet. Like I said, I don't want to put too much detail on the feet. I think we have it pretty much. We've missed out a marking here. Let's just pop that in. So this is the main one here and the little one. Have I? Yeah, actually, that one does go a bit lower, higher. So I changed it earlier and made it a bit too low. We'll squeeze that one in. We need a bit more room there, but let's just give it a bit more room. There we go. Alright, so that's our sketch. Now what has to happen now where I decide to do watercolour on here. Pretty much I'm looking at the edges here, and most of the edges other than the ears here aren't white. So where there's an edge and it's white, I've got a white background. So if I've got a strong pencil mark and I want that a light colour, that pencil mark's going to show through. So I want to take that line back down to barely nothing. And the same with this ear here. I've got quite a lot of heavy pencil marks there. So I'm just going to take that right down. Now here, all of this is orange until we get to this bit here. And again, we've got a light stripe that goes up there. So again, I'm just going to take that down to barely nothing. Another one on his paw here. As we come under here, I might put a shadow under here, so that's fine. Over here and on his muzzle, and just under the ear there, where the muzzle is. Again, just going to take some of that out where the white background will be, and the rest always has dividing lines. So where I've put the where I've put the markings, the dark will cover that up, so that'll be quite good. But there is a light bit under the eye, so I'm just going to remove some of the pencil marks there. And that's about it. So I don't have to reduce this back any further on the pencil lines. I'd rather have a strong pencil line so that I can see what I'm doing. So what will happen now is I'm going to go and soak this in some water, but not before I've cleaned up my background here. It's still got pencil marks and smudges all over it. When you draw with pencil, of course, you often get it on your hands, so therefore it often goes to your paper if you're holding it like I have been. This is yesterday's. Of course, I've got snow to do today as well. Maybe you could have a guess at what I might be drawing for that. But this is, you know, it's actually shorter than this, and that's because I want to get it all on one page. So that's fine. But I now need to do my dividing line. So if you remember when I started this, I kind of said, well, I'm going to do the line. I'm going to do the line around about here, I think. So here. So I'm just going to mark that off up there. And I'm going to measure that. Which is between... right. It's literally in between 99 and 100. So just do the same down here. My dividing line. There we go. So I hope you found that okay. I am going to leave that here. What I'm going to do is go away and soak it. I'm going to tape it to this glass board here with some framers tape. And then I'm going to dry it off with a hairdryer, which this shouldn't take long, and I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee, and then I'll be back to paint it. So hopefully if you look out for the next live, I will look at you know, getting this one done up. I'm looking at this right now and I'm thinking I want to move my line over, actually. Yeah. I'm going to get both eyes. I'm going to get both eyes in. So I'm going to measure. Let's do, I think, 85. Change my mind. I'm allowed to. It's my piece. Just look at it. Sometimes it just catches your eye after you've done it. You kind of go, nah, there's something not quite right about that. Yeah, it's better. There's going to be more in colour than in black and white on this one because it's not a symmetrical image. But that's okay. The colour is much more impactful anyway. Yeah, that's much better. I like that much better. Thank you, Jade. Hopefully you'll join me in a bit. So this will now come up on your screen. Let's just push this down here for a moment. And we have... There we go. Alright, so that's the copy of Tiger. That will be... So I'm just looking at my other camera, which has fallen off its stand. I was going to put that on for you as well. All right, so this will be in the corner at all times, and you will see it. And I will be drawing and inking straight from this. You know, what colours do you see? Obviously, the most obvious one is going to be orange. You know, a little bit about picking colours here. Oh, I have a formula here. So my yellows and sometimes very, very pale blues or greens I often use for the whites, right? Or and white, of course. But where the highlights might go, the darker parts of the white bits. When it comes to mid-tones, I'm going to be looking at, you know, oranges, pinks, some of the blues and greens. And then when we come to the dark bits, we're looking at dark blues, purples, that kind of thing. And I just play around with it. You know, I look at where the light source is coming from or where it might be. So, for example, on his back here might be, you know, a good point to put some highlights, some lighter areas. But white is never white, and so around here, for example, this shading, this dark shading, I'd be really tempted to do that really nice bright blue, bearing in mind we are splitting him about here. The other reason why I wanted to bring that across is this. I wanted to get some of this and this in colour. But here I can see a bit of pink. I mean, you might not see a bit of pink, but I can see that's, you know, what I might use there, or a bit of orange. Now, the main fur, I think because it is a tiger, I will probably use orange for these bits. But a much deeper orange, and maybe some reds as well. So that's, you know, it's just making some assessments along the way. You know, got bits here. I definitely think, sorry, you can't see those. Definitely think, you know, these would lend itself to being quite a nice aqua, bright colour, or turquoise or something like that. But you just play with colour. As long as you stick to the rules of dark values, light values, and mid-tones in the middle, you can do this in any colour, as long as you bear that in mind and you follow that formula. So I'm off to have a coffee, soak this, get this ready for inking, and I shall be back on. I'm going to estimate, let's say 4 o'clock. I'll aim to be on around about 4 o'clock if you want to join me. I will post up though, so look out for it. But if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, by the way, it should email you. So if you just pay attention to your email, it's another way of, you know, ensuring you don't miss these. Because if you're not on Patreon, you won't see them again, because that's where they go. You know, those that are paying $5 a month get to see these whenever they like, and hopefully draw along and get the line drawing, because I'm going to do a line drawing of each one, and get all sorts of different coloured versions of this, black and white, high contrast, high saturation. So it's well worth coming to support me on Patreon. And just a little kind of bit of information about that. Any drawings that I do that aren't commissions on Patreon, I get to use them to raise money for animal sanctuaries and conservation and trusts. So 100% on the original. And then I get a percentage for prints. You know, so it really helps me give back as well. All right. So hopefully I'll be on at 4, and I shall see you then, folks. Take care. Bye-bye for now.